What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's a good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here. And I would love to tell you guys that the quarterback that's been making huge strides over the course of training camp is Justin Fields. But the name to know here is undrafted free agent Brady Cook, who was a guy that I really liked once I was able to dig into the backstory, fit the criteria of what Aaron Glenn was going to be looking for, and Tanner Engstrom when it came to a mobile, athletic quarterback who had upside in terms of the passing game, right? A live arm, can do a bunch of different things from our platform. We've heard Armand Mimbu speak to the toughness, the Auburn game that's out there where he got carted off and still came back to almost lead his team to victory. So there's a lot of different things to appreciate about his game and just the intangible traits that he's going to be out there and produce. And let's not forget, coming out of Mizzou, SEC school, he's functioned versus some of the high level talent that college football has to offer, and he's looked pretty good, right? I think the fact that we did get him as an undrafted free agent was definitely a steal for us. And I even recall Emory Hunt talking to Glenn Naughton from Jets Nation, Emory Hunt being from Football Game Plan. He had pre-draft notes with him being, and keep in mind, there was a lot of quarterbacks not really going through the combine drills and all this kind of stuff. But for those that did participate, players like Tyler Shugg, for example, who did end up getting drafted ahead of him, he was the most consistent and most impressive quarterback in that display. So I think there is something of a gem here, even if the ceiling ultimately is long-term backup. If you can find that here, huge plus. But what I want to talk about today was some of Robby Sabo's comments. And Sabo's a guy that I really enjoy watching or reading his articles anyways when training camp in the offseason comes up, because I find him to be generally objective in the details and lack of assumptions that's in the what he's reporting on, but he also still keeps things critical while putting everything in context. So when he highlights the fact that Brady Cook has made drastic improvements since OTA, it's something that gets my attention. He called out specifically a lot of his decisiveness and trust in what's being thrown out there in addition to the play call in and of itself, which is interesting because it's the same exact concerns that you can mention are present with Justin Fields currently. So what would be making Brady Cook adjust potentially to what's happening out there rather than Justin Fields, when also keep in mind, unofficial depth chart, he's ranked as the fourth quarterback right now. He's working with worse weapons, right? So obviously the defensive talent is also going to decline, but I think we're deeper on that side of the ball with talents and athletes and such that at least can be acceptable within Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes' scheme here. So some of the commentary specifically from Robby Sabo, he mentioned sneakily Brady Cook's entire being is morphing into something the Jets can work with, will want to work with, far from savior status, Jets fans, so let's not get nuts. But you get the idea. Something workable is there. He then goes on to say he's moved from afterthought to, okay, there's something here that we can work with. Don't want to lose him territory, at least from my perspective. And that's a plus, right? When we brought Adrian Martinez in last year, different scheme and all these things, but when we brought him over as the UFL MVP and we got a glimpse into what he can do with just the experience he's been able to build up and also that athleticism over the course of preseason, it felt like a guy that would be locked in to learn behind Tyrod Taylor and maybe move into that QB2 role. But now with these improvements from Brady Cook, I think the conversation is, can one of these two guys press to force the Jets to keep three on the active roster instead of trying to sneak one onto the practice squad and then be able to elevate when necessary? And Brady Cook may be turning into that diamond in the rough where you don't want to risk it. And there's elements of what's happened throughout the course of the offseason where you can say maybe the coaching staff does have a vision and more fondness of Brady Cook than what you would get out of Adrian Martinez. I remember reporting on this during the course of OTAs and rookie minicamp and such, but it felt like when both men were on the field, Brady Cook was seeing more snaps and he was ranked ahead of Adrian Martinez. And even up until this point in training camp before the unofficial depth chart, it felt like he was getting more snaps and again being ranked ahead. So him being placed fourth could just be the same situation that you see Mason Taylor and Jeremy Rucker being in, where maybe even if it's not clear, they want to see him go out there and earn it in some of these game settings before they officially decide to promote and improve certain guys. Armand Mimbu is really the only exception to that rule from this draft class. Excuse me, at least for those that have been in somewhat of a competition. So I absolutely love everything about this. Right there, the piece that really drew me to this article was him mentioning the improvements that were being made and the fact that even in 2.5 weeks ago, there were the reports coming in that he was throwing hospital balls, or there were a ton of overthrows that were being tossed around, and potentially even some arm struggles, which we wouldn't have expected. Where it seems like he had balls that were just kind of hanging and floating out there when he was looking to attack the hash marks or place anything in terms of out routes and different things like that to the boundaries. But all of that's really been flipped on his head. So questions about what he can attack so far, I think those are being resolved based on a lot of these recent performances that have been going on. And with Tyrod Taylor being out the last practice or two, that's giving him even more exposure to the second string guys that he hasn't necessarily had the chance to work with, right? You're talking about him dealing with guys like Quentin Skinner and Ontarie Wilson, and who else is on it? Jamal Pritchett's of the world, as opposed to having access to the Tyler Johnsons and the Jeremy Ruckers and that ilk, right? So I'm looking forward to what else we end up seeing out of him, but don't be surprised if he looks like the most solid quarterback over the course of this preseason for us, if he can keep this level of consistency up. So I'm looking forward to more. I will find out if there's anything else that draws my interest that we need to call out with him. But let me know what you guys think. If he can keep this up, would you stash him on the practice squad still and hope that you can elevate him and no one else tries to steal him from the practice squad? Or would you seriously consider making him your quarterback three in lieu of keeping an additional wide receiver, or maybe that means defensive lineman or something of that nature? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.